Good morning. It's good to be with all of you. I appreciate that introduction, and I appreciated hearing a little bit from each of you, and maybe where you are in transition. And my hope today is that you will get some more insight on that transition, or perhaps what your soul is craving, what you're wanting, not only in your career but your life. I think when we're making career choices, we're really making life choices. And Fred gave an introduction. My background, I'm a licensed mental health counselor and also certified career coach. I worked at the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School for over 7 years, working with individuals in all areas of business. And now I work full-time in my own business, providing individual counseling for people who are experiencing anxiety, overwhelm, depression, and then also career coaching for people who are feeling stuck or lost in transition and wanting to figure out what's the next step and how do I get there and all that good stuff. So that's a little bit of my background, and I've been a presenter, I think this is my third time here with 40 Plus, so I kind of feel already welcome. So thank you for having me back. I appreciate that. In the next hour, we're going to talk a little bit more about some reflective questions, because I think we're always just going. It's a very fast-paced world, and it's easy just to start thinking when we think career, like, what job can I fit into? I need to start working on my resume. I need to figure out how to do interview preparation. And we start to launch into job search strategies, sometimes without even taking a step back and reflecting about what we truly want. So let me just hear, I did hear from some of you where you are, but this particular session, this idea of 25 questions to soul and career, what about this particular presentation title intrigued you? What do you hope to take away from today? Yes?
Questions maybe I haven't thought of asking myself.
Okay, some new questions to ask yourself. Mm-hmm. Yes?
How to really assess what am I really good at?
Mm-hmm.
On the surface I know, but to drill it down, and how do I actually do that drill down?
Sure. Okay, so kind of a deeper drill down to understand, like, what am I actually good at? What's deeper there? Yeah, what does that mean? Okay, great. Yes?
And that's a very big one, but how do you find your passion?
How do you find your passion? Well, in the next hour, you're going to find that. We'll check back in. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I like that. I like the vision, yes. What else?
What sort of steps I should be taking to go in the right direction? Because like you said, it's wide open and I feel unfocused. So what can I do to focus in on those things that are most important to me?
Yeah, okay, so finding some focus so you can start with the next step instead of just kind of doing everything, yeah.
Wandering all around.
Yeah. Great. Well,
I just always felt like getting out, being with people is always helpful. Looking around the room, it's nice to know you're not the only one looking for a job. But the other thing is, when I attend sessions, if I can take away a couple of ahas that I haven't thought about before, then I always feel like it's been a worthwhile endeavor. So the title intrigued me.
Okay, great. I like that. Perhaps there's a little aha that you'll take away, something that kind of plants a seed, and it sounds like that community is helpful. And part of this is interactive, and we're going to have some conversations, so you'll definitely meet some people you maybe didn't know before. Well, I'm glad that there's some things that are on your mind, because I think the questions that we'll be asking today will hit at some of the things that you all brought up. Just to give you kind of a visual, it's a little blurry, so if you want to unfocus your eyes, you might be able to see it a little better here. But when we talk about career exploration, you might have heard this word, like career exploration. What does that actually mean? It's really self-exploration, knowing yourself deeper. As you mentioned, what are my skills? What are my abilities? What are my goals, interests, values? What's really important to me, right? So these are all kind of puzzle pieces that we look at when we're trying to find something that is really a fit. There isn't just one thing. Maybe there's something that's not working at your current job, and oh gosh, I want to get away from X. But there are many puzzle pieces that make something a fit. So taking a step back today, we're going to reflect on some things that maybe are important to you, things that you want to be kind of part of that career puzzle or life pie, if you will. Now, just to give you a sense of, steps in this process, if you're looking for a new job, there are many parts, and as you alluded to, how do I kind of focus? Well, today we're not going to be talking about most of these, but we really start with self-exploration around what do I want? What's the target as far as the company or my interest? That has to be first before you can move into anything else. Because if you start going on Indeed.com, Monster.com, LinkedIn, right? If you start going and doing industry research, if you start reworking your LinkedIn profile, if you start redoing your resume, cover letters, networking, interview prep, all of these pieces here, but you're not sure what you actually really want and why you want it, all of this is just going to be kind of lost in translation, if that makes sense, right? So stepping back to say, what is it that I really want? What's really important to me is so crucial for the rest of the process. So if you're thinking, gosh, I don't even really know what I want, or if you're saying to yourself, I'll take anything, I hear that a lot from clients. Companies don't really want to hear that, right? They want to hear that you're very focused, you're very confident and clear about the value that you can bring to an organization. So you have to be really clear on what you want before you can tell an employer what they're going to get when they hire you. Excuse me. So if you're kind of over here but you're thinking, I'm not sure exactly what I want, this is hopefully going to be an opportunity for you in the next 45 minutes to get some more clarity so that you can come back to these nuts and bolts. These are kind of the action steps forward once you're really clear about what you want. Okay? So if you're spending a lot of time on job boards, I would say get off the job boards, and you've got a million tabs open on your computer. Does that resonate with anyone? Yeah, you can have like a million tabs open and get just totally lost in it. And I would say stepping back and knowing what you want first will help you then go find what you're looking for, instead of just kind of more of a reactive process where it kind of just hits you. If it hits you, you're more strategic in your approach. So we're actually going to jump right in to these questions. So if you have a piece of paper, I'd like you to take that out. I've got these questions on my phone. And we're going to take the next, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so. And I'm going to ask you these questions. And I want you to jot down what comes to your mind. You can just do a bullet, you can do a word, you can do a phrase, you can draw a picture, whatever comes to you. Now this is for you only. I'm not going to collect them, so be honest with yourself. You get to decide what you share at some point if you'd like to share. But this is just an opportunity for you to slow down, take a moment, reflect, and get curious. You don't have to judge whatever comes up. You don't have to evaluate it. You just need to jot it down. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, great. Now I've got a list of over 40 questions, so I like to play with what I'm going to share today. So if I give you 26 or 27, just know that I'm feeling ambitious over 25, but we're going to go for about 25 questions, okay? Has everybody got a pen, piece of paper? Okay. The other part of this is that I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to answer each of them. And the reason I do it pretty quickly is so that you just go with your knee-jerk reaction. Okay, this is like the gut check. What comes up for you? Not, let me think through this, right? It's just going to be what comes to your mind. Okay, so I apologize in advance if it feels like it's not a lot of time. It's just for you to just kind of spur of the moment, go with what comes up, okay? All right, so first question. Who are you today? Who are you today? What are you most proud of? What are you most proud of? What do others give you positive feedback on? What do others give you positive feedback on? afraid, I would. Finish the sentence. If I were not afraid, I would. What has been a peak experience of your career so far? What has been a peak experience of your career so far? What has been a peak experience of your life so far? What has been a peak experience of your life so far? What activities bring you energy and fulfillment? What activities bring you energy and fulfillment? What did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you were a kid? What aspects of your childhood might you be trying to fix through your work? What aspects of your childhood might you be trying to fix through your work? What was your favorite class in school? And why? What was your favorite class in school and why? When you go to a bookstore, what section do you gravitate towards? When you go to a bookstore, what section do you gravitate towards? What topics or ideas inspire or challenge you? What topics or ideas inspire and challenge you? What companies do you admire for what they're doing? What companies do you admire for what they're doing? What's one gift or ability you think you've been given? What's one gift or ability you think you've been given? If you could solve one problem in the world, what would it be? If you could solve one problem in the world, what would it be? If you didn't have to worry about money, what would you be doing? If you didn't have to worry about money, what would you be doing? What's one thing missing in your current life or career? What's one thing in your current life, what's one thing missing in your current life or career? Finish this sentence. If I could learn about anything, I would choose to learn. Finish this sentence. If I could learn about anything, I would choose to learn. Who is your role model when it comes to living a purposeful life? Who is your role model when it comes to living a purposeful life? What would you do if you knew you could not fail? What would you do if you knew you could not fail? What gets in the way of you taking the next step towards that goal? What gets in the way of you taking the next step towards that goal? What would change if that barrier were removed? What would change if that barrier were removed? What do you want to be remembered for when your life is over? What do you want to be remembered for when your life is over? Okay. I don't know if anybody was counting, but I think we made it to about 25.
23.
Only 23? I'm gonna pause this on 23 because I think I like the flow of that. But anyway, I'll have to give you two more good questions at the end that I think of. But hopefully your hand is still on your body. I want you to take a moment to look at some of the questions that you answered. And I want you to put a star next to anything that surprised you. A star next to anything that surprised you. Okay. I don't know if anybody was counting, but I think we made it to about 25.
23.
Only 23? I'm gonna pause this on 23 because I think I like the flow of that. But anyway, I'll have to give you two more good questions at the end that I think of. But hopefully your hand is still on your body. I want you to take a moment to look at some of the questions that you answered. And I want you to put a star next to anything that surprised you. A star next to anything that surprised you. And I want you to maybe put a circle next to something that you're curious about, that you want to come back to. So I want us to take a moment. I want you to turn to someone next to you. Now, this information is yours. You're welcome to share what you want. But perhaps turn to someone and maybe just share maybe what the exercise was like. Maybe you want to point out the star or the circle. Something, maybe an aha moment. Maybe just have we'll do a little think, pair, share for a moment. And just share maybe what was coming up for you in that exercise, okay? Do like 5 minutes and then we'll switch and do another 5 minutes. Go for it.
So what surprised you?
Hey.
Alright, let's come on back together. Let's come on back together. Some good conversation. A lot of energy in the room. Good, yeah. Are you Sunday morning? Energy?
No, I like
All right.
things you said about like.
So let's come back together as a group. Let me just kind of hear what were some of the conversations you were having. What are maybe some ahas? Just want to get a sense of what this was like for you all. Yes.
For me, actually, the big aha was that I couldn't answer some of these questions. So I think that these are the few questions that I couldn't answer. I think I need to go back and dig a little bit deeper to really what's out there, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and of course, I only gave you 30 seconds, so some of these are big, but it's interesting to think. Was there any particular question that was particularly challenging? And this would be for anyone, but
I just had a few, actually, what companies do you admire?
I
I
okay.
have no idea.
Yeah. How do you think knowing that might be helpful in the career process? How could, yeah.
Well, that company, if you admire and price shares values that you feel are important, and so it would likely be a good place for you to work.
Sure. It could give you some clues about types of companies, maybe an industry, or maybe companies that have values or a mission that resonate with you. Because you might be really clear that the skill set you want to use is working with data and numbers. Maybe you're an accountant, for example. That is the skill set that you use, but accountants are needed in every single type of organization, right? Hospitals, education, universities, nonprofits, government. Every entity needs an accountant. So where you apply those skills of accounting, you get to decide. So sometimes understanding, well, what companies are actually admired for what they're doing, maybe company culture, maybe their mission and values, what they're doing in the world, that might give you a clue as to, maybe I want to be a part of what they're doing and apply my accounting skills there. So it may be the other way around. You may say, I really love Apple, I love technology, and I'll mop the floors, or I'll, do the sales and marketing for them. And so you're deciding what the skills are, but you're very clear that you want to be part of a tech company, right? An innovative tech company. So sometimes we're more clear on one area or the other, but thinking about who do I like with what they're doing can give you some information. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Yes.
And also it could be nothing with what you want to do professionally. For example, I admire Doctors Without Borders, but I'm not about to go out as a doctor, because I don't have a PhD, and go help them. But I admire them, so I want to work maybe not related to that at all.
Yeah, and it might mean something else. Maybe it's something you want to volunteer with, or maybe there's an underlying mission about Doctors with Borders that they're helping, eradicate, some sort of disease or something, and maybe that means you want to be a part of a company that's doing that in another way. So it can just give you clues, but you're right, it doesn't necessarily mean that is the company. It can just be kind of little flags to say, pay attention over here, maybe there's something I want to be a part of, maybe career-wise, maybe volunteer-wise, but there's maybe something hidden there that can give you information about a direction you want to follow. Other thoughts on that or questions? Yes.
I really like that question, and I really want to think about this a lot. Like, what gets in the way? Like, I couldn't complete that question, but I think it's something like what gets in the way that stops you from going where you want to be. I really want to think.
You want to think more about it. Yeah. Sometimes we have that vision, but there's something that's holding us back. Sometimes it's fear of failure, fear of success. Maybe in our mind it's money, it's time, it's approval of others. Whatever it is, right? If we get clear about what's holding us back, then we can think about maybe how do we break through that barrier. So I appreciate you sharing, because that is maybe a deeper journaling exercise. Maybe there's, you find a quiet space and kind of think a little bit more deeply about what that is, so you can unlock some stuff. Yeah, great. Yes.
The most surprising thing for me was when you asked about the childhood, what I wanted to be as a kid. I wanted to be a hockey player when I was a kid. For like 2 years, that was a burning desire. It was very important. Of course, that passed. But it was, the interesting thing was realizing that these goals kind of come and go, and it was good to be, working on that for that time, but that it didn't happen wasn't necessarily a failure.
Yeah.
And that maybe through life there are goals that come and go.
Yeah. I'm curious why, if you don't mind sharing, what was feeling kind of so important about that becoming your reality? I loved skating, loved being on the ice. The team, I loved that part of it. And I was, at that age, somewhat proficient.
it seemed possible.
Uh-huh.
And, the thought of going to college and playing for the team is all, what's that like?
Okay. So it sounds like playing for a team that was exciting.
That was
or?
part of it, yeah, but you're also on the ice, your own individual moves are exciting and fun.
Okay. Would you say that somewhere in your career you've worked on teams, you've individually contributed, you've had fun?
Sure, and also contributed in ways that, my name was attached to articles as a journalist that it was my, work, so I got that, egotistical satisfaction out of it.
Okay. And sometimes,
You're
again,
on the scoreboard.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes our childhood fantasies of what we want to be, again, there can just be kind of pieces of information in there that help us get insight. I don't know, what did I want to be as a kid? Well, I wanted to be a singer. I'm not going to sing for you today, but I always liked presenting. And I was a peer mediator in elementary school. I liked helping kids resolve conflict. So there might be either exactly what you wanted to be as a kid or even activities that you found fulfillment in. And you might go back and ask yourself, what was it about that was exciting or that I was good at or I liked, right? Because it translates, there are themes and patterns in our lives of what we gravitate towards. So it may not actually physically, be something that you're a hockey player, but maybe there are themes and concepts underlying that of things that kind of resonate with you. And maybe you sought out some of those pieces. Or maybe in the next career you want to do, maybe it's something you want to keep in mind. Again, so some of these questions may really resonate with one or two of you, and then others it might be something totally different. So thanks for letting us play with that example. But sometimes our past can give us a lot of information about our present and our future. So thanks. Other thoughts people would like to share? Yes.
I had a general thought about the whole list as a group, and then one or two that sort of builds off of things that people have already said. So I was amazed. I think about 75% of these questions were actually easy to answer because they hit on things that I've already thought about. So it's just kind of like, oh, you're asking this question, here's the answer. I've already given. That was just no thought at all. Which in and of itself was interesting. But you kind of have a lot of these things are, maybe settled's the wrong word, but they're known. They're things, they're questions that you've already asked and answered in your own head at least. Some of the ones that were not though, I liked the circled ones for ones you kind of want to think more about or not sure. Some of those are just not really answered well. I mean, you can write something down, but it's not really sure what those are. And then the surprising answers too. So I also was surprised by not surprised, wanted to think more about the what company do you admire question. That was a good one. I had thought about that, and there's a lot of different ways that could go for the same benefits of what you just said.
Sure.
The other one was the who do you admire and what do you want to be remembered for? Those were interesting ones. I not really thought of. But.
Yeah. What do you think could come of knowing some of that? Why might that be important for you at this stage of life?
Well, the aside from the company one, which I think is pretty.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that about who you admire and what you want to be remembered for, like kind of the two sides of the same coin there, right? Because you're admiring somebody for something they've done. How would you want to be remembered? Maybe another way of putting it is how would you want to be admired by somebody else? That's not too egotistical way of rephrasing that. And you get to a certain age, there's a certain amount of water's already gone under the bridge, so maybe recalibrate, reframe goals. And I'm not saying pessimistically, I just mean realistically. So where can you have the most benefit, or what can be most beneficial to yourself or to others around you, if that's where you find your energy and so forth. So.
Sure, yeah. And if you have a vision of, at the end of your life, what you want to be remembered for, the impact you want to have left the world in some way, then it can also help you take steps where you are now to say, how do I get there? How do I make that happen? Do I start volunteering for something? Do I change jobs? Do I rekindle a relationship that's not, hasn't been working for a couple of years, right? So if you have a vision of, leaving this earth in some way, then you can start taking steps now to, design that life that you've lived, right? So it can be powerful. Not to be a morbid question. It's supposed to be inspiring, so you're all going to be here for a very long time. It's just the idea to think about what's the vision. What do you want the world to remember about you? And then you can design what's next. We're designing every chapter. So you're writing the next chapter right now. So it's exciting, right?
Yeah, I've been asked before, what do you want your legacy to be? So it's exactly the same thing.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it kind of highlights for me this kind of push-pull that I have going on internally, and just listening to everybody else speak has kind of helped make it more clear maybe that, I've always been like achiever, when you do the strength finders and stuff, achievers very high, so I'm always trying for the next big thing, whatever that may be. But as I'm looking at what do I want to be remembered for, what do I want to accomplish, who's the person I looked up to? My dad. But he doesn't have his name with flashing lights, and my thing is to help others and to help them be better, help their path. So it's like, okay, so it's really kind of trying to evaluate in a sense which way do I go? Do I want to be that leader of an organization, or am I more happy working with and helping others be better? That's the teacher side of me. So so I've kind of got to think about that some more, try to figure out which direction or both and see where I land. So anyway.
Yeah, I'd be curious what it looks like to integrate those or combine those together, and what is it? How do you know when you're there, right? So not just the doing part, but the being part.
Yes.
Who are you as a person, right? Because you can probably take on a number of different positions.
Right.
What's going to allow you to feel fulfilled and become more of the person you want to be, or what do you need to incorporate into your life to be that way? So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Your thoughts? Yes. Yes.
Because I'm on the younger side in this room, young kids, early days, looking probably.
Okay. Take a look at her. She looks fabulous. Yes.
There's a reason I look really young, actually.
Okay.
But I don't tend to think about that question of legacy and what do I want to be remembered for. I think having that question in my mind, I'm kind of surprised by my answer. But it also gives me an explanation for why I really want to return back to the workforce in full-time capacity versus working as a contractor, working at 50 some odd hours. It's relationships. I haven't really spent all that time. Of course, I graduated during the session of college and law school. That's my thing. I just graduated during the session, or after the session.
Okay.
I graduated after the 01 recession. I graduated during the 08-09 recession. So that's what I just keep doing. And so based on that, I've kind of been on a, late start career-wise even. So I graduated and have technically been practicing for 10 years as an attorney now, and it's shocking to me that, wow, 10 years has come and gone now. But I think I've been kind of in this reflection mode for the past week of, oh my God, I can't believe it's been 10 years. But I focus so much on that, and because, I graduated with that $100,000 plus student loan debt, which is like the albatross around my neck, constantly. That those on the other side, this is something that we're constantly facing. Like we're so stuck in many ways because we have that horrible amount of debt that we're trying to pay off somehow. You almost feel like you have to spend so much of your time working, and then your relationships really get sacrificed. And I think really that is one of the reasons why I've been thinking more and more about that, as well as benefits. The question about what companies you admire. I was stuck on that one too. But one thing I do know is that the companies I admire the most are the ones that are more progressive in terms of the benefits they offer, with flexibility, etc. That gives me a clue as to what I'm looking for, certainly. So that was one thing for me. Your question about what wanted to be a childhood. I thought that was interesting. It's an example of the past connecting with the present and the future. So in the past, I always wanted to be a doctor growing up. I spent so much time in doctor's offices growing up that I wanted to be like fine this year. That's what I always said. Then came high school, then came biology, then came dissection, and we'll leave it at that as to why.
Okay. Got a picture here.
Even as a patient, even now, like the last 7 years of my life have completely shocked me. And never in a million years would I have thought that I would spend my 30s hit with one health issue after another after another. It turns out everything is because of an umbrella condition. Well, I come back into that interest of medical. Well, I could never actually practice medicine because being a dissection, I can't. Patient advocacy is something I have really gotten into. And it's funny, the case that I'm working on right now involves chronic pain patients, which of course is what I am. Well, the irony right there. So I think that's where the legal and the medical kind of comes in together in one piece for me. It's interesting though that even though I've decided linearly what would be the easiest thing would be to move up in the e-discovery field within litigation, within the legal field, because it is an actual crazy emerging field with so many different things. And I realized that after being a contract attorney for so many years that wow, that's been a blessing because it's given me flexibility in my current place, 100% flexibility, which I've never heard of in my life. I'm so grateful. I still come back to that piece of advocacy, presenting, which, you know, I'm the presenter here. I come back to taking my oral advocacy skills as an attorney, as well as the other question about, what was your question? The one about what real problem we would solve.
Right.
Again, coming back to my experience as a patient, one of my number one things on my mind all the time, access to medical care and treatment.
So you're starting to see some of the connections, maybe even between some of your questions. And maybe that's something to another exercise to see what's popping up more than once here. And
well,
so,
what came up more than once for me, shockingly, I'm not really too surprised when I think about it. Starting a business. I think that came up 3 times.
Okay. Yeah.
So it tells me something.
Yes.
I have been saying, again, given that I'm on the younger side, I know that I'm not going to be fortunate to have 20 years in one company. That's all gone. That's not going to happen for younger people. It's just not.
Yeah.
We're not going to be at one entity for 20 years, 30 years, whatever.
Right.
So instead, it's going to be multiple streams of income. That's what I have been saying for the last several years.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that keeps coming up. But then I am here.
Yeah.
My wife.
So there's lots of information there, right? And everyone can kind of make some of these connections perhaps and see what are some patterns and themes. So it may not be the exact word or phrase, but maybe something underneath that you're kind of paying attention to and noticing. So there's a lot of information and data to be mined. We have just really a minute left here. Any last minute thoughts or maybe an aha or something that you're taking away from our conversation today? Yes.
You know, where you start the job search, and I love how you say start with self-discovery versus doing the rest. Typically people start with the resume, right? And here you are, you're trying to form something, but you don't even know where you want to go.
Right.
So to me, that was a big insightful.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And some of these questions are so much bigger, right? What do you want to be known for when you at the end of your life, right? But it can give you some information about, well, where am I now? Where do I want to go? And how do some of these pieces of my puzzle translate into a career choice? Or, I want these family relationships. So let me think about work-life balance. What are companies that believe in, a 9 to 5? Or work, can I work remotely? So things like that can help you get some perspective on what's important to you, what do you want, and then how to go for it. So yes, it's very easy to jump into the mode of resumes and cover letters, but doing some of that reflection to really figure out what is my target, what would be my ideal type of job. Then you can brand yourself, tell your story based on what you know. So if you're not clear just yet, I would encourage you to go back to these questions, and do some more exploration. And so I'm hoping that you're taking a little bit of a, I don't know if that's working. you're taking something with you today. If you have any additional questions, you feel free to email me. I've got other questions and other assessments and things like that. And I know that 40 Plus has a lot of resources. I'm based in Bethesda, Maryland, but I also work with clients remotely all over. So it's been a pleasure to be with you all this morning. I've really been honored to hear all of the things that you've been sharing. I know that it takes some courage, just a little bit of a vulnerable experience, right, to kind of tap into what's important to you or reevaluate and pivot and adjust. So I think you all just showed a lot of courage, I think, in showing up and being authentic and sharing. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, we should give ourselves a hand for being honest and authentic. And for Taylor, for a good presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good presentation.